The FBI made the social media platforms pull that information off the internet if it came from conservative sources. They did this under the guise that it was disinformation. Your star witness said in the litigation, Elvis Chan, who's in charge of this, said they do it on the basis of disinformation. The court has found that, and Elvis Chan testified under oath in charge of this for you. He said 50%. He had a 50% success rate.
I'm not sure that's a correct characterization.
Comes right out of the opinion. You should read it.
Of his testimony. But what I would say is the FBI is not in the business of moderating content.
Okay. FBI Director Christopher Wray responding to allegations from our next guest that the Bureau encouraged social media to censor conservative viewpoints. Mike Johnson, Republican in Louisiana. You were asking the questions. Good morning to you today. We are watching here in New York. Here is how he answered part of your query. Watch here.
I would disagree with your characterization of the FBI and certainly your description of my own approach. The idea that I'm biased against conservatives seems somewhat insane to me, given my own personal background.
Somewhat insane was the answer. A lot of your questions have to do with credibility, right, in the FBI and trust. That was what you were driving at in part. Were you satisfied?
Not at all. It's so frustrating even to hear and see these clips again. It's happened yesterday morning. Director Wray, as you've seen, was very evasive. He was defiant. He presented information to our committee yesterday that is demonstrably untrue. In one of those exchanges there, he claimed and argued with me that they were not pulling down information, censoring and silencing so-called election disinformation before the 2020 election. It's just not true. The lawsuit says that a 155-page court opinion that came out by a federal judge on July 4th says that the evidence shows that the FBI was pulling down the speech of American citizens. They made no attempt at all to distinguish between foreign influence and Americans. And so what the court said is that this result had the desired effect. Millions of free speech, protected postings of conservatives across the country were pulled off the internet because some FBI agent determined that they didn't like that message. It's absolutely staggering and frightening. And the court said, by the way, this is arguably the most massive attack on free speech in United States history.
Yes, so that was the judge down, I believe, in Louisiana, or is it Texas?
Right.
Who said that on the 4th of July. Too much. The administration, I think, is probably very frustrated with it. But a lot of the censorship, too, was not just coming from the FBI, but from the White House itself, from HHS and other places. Is that the type of question that you would be putting to them, too, if you get a chance?
Absolutely, and we will. And in our oversight responsibility, we have lots of answers to gather from the administration, because the injunction that the court handed down July 4th covers the White House, the Department of Justice, the FBI, but also many other federal agencies that have been engaged in what is now being called the industrial complex of censorship here, that they have a whole of government approach to censoring viewpoints that they disagree with. And that's happened over and over and over again. They were intending to continue it until the court issued the injunction. Well, the FBI is out of control.
You had, you had the man, other than Merrick Garland, probably the guy in Washington you wanted to question. And Dana and I sit through a lot of these hearings, and frankly, it's frustrating for us because the window is so short. It's 5 minutes. Right. And so half the time you get a speech and then perhaps one question in. Republican strategy yesterday. Did you strategize with your colleagues on the line of questioning for that hearing?
We did. We had a meeting the night before. The members, Republican members on the committee, worked out the line of questions that they had. Here's the challenge, Bill. It's a target-rich environment. The FBI is involved in so many scandals currently that people have lost count. There's so much that our constituents are demanding answers to. We know they were labeling concerned parents at school board meetings as domestic terrorists. They were targeting pro-life Catholics, conservative Catholics, as extremists. They were raiding the homes of political opponents. The Durham report says that the FBI failed in its critical mission of strict fidelity to the law, and now you have a 155-page federal court opinion saying they're engaging in the biggest cover-up, the biggest assault on free speech since the founding of our country. This FBI, at least at the top, its leadership, is broken, and we've got to have accountability.
Do you support cutting funding to the FBI?
We have one really important power in the House and in Congress, and that's the power of the purse. They want a $4 billion new headquarters, a glittery new building to work in. I don't think they deserve that. If they can't maintain and uphold the basic and most fundamental constitutional rights of the people that they're supposed to be protecting and serving. This is serious business. We can't kick anybody out of office here. We could impeach someone, but you know what that involves. This is an executive branch. The president has control over who serves in these positions, but if the leadership is broken, that is one way that we can bring accountability, and we're very serious about it.
Last question, just need a quick answer. Where do you go from here based on what you learned yesterday, or maybe what you didn't learn?
Well, we have to have reform. We have to have serious reform at the FBI. It's the most important and largest law enforcement agency in the country. It has a critical mission, but if the leadership is broken, it cannot do that. They're being weaponized. The whole Department of Justice is under Merrick Garland's leadership, and we're going to continue this, putting the information out for the American people so they can draw their own conclusions about it as we do.
All right, Mike Johnson, thank you for your time, sir. Republican of Louisiana, thank you.
Thanks.
Speaking of the FBI, the